Other than nutrients, probably the second most confusing thing to do. Well, what kind of bulb should I use? Well, first off, bulbs are now measured in what they call PARs, and that's photosynthetically active radiation. Basically, to put it in layman's terms, it just measures the amount of light that is put out between 350 and 700 nanometers. In that range is a range that plants mostly grow. To be actually more specific, it's about more towards 400 to 700 nanometers is what cannabis needs to grow properly. That spectrum in that spectrum of the nanometers. The second thing, bulbs are rated by temperature. They burn so many Kelvin. The lower the Kelvin, let's say 2800 Kelvin to maybe 3400 Kelvin, those are your high pressure sodium bulbs. Those are the ones that, because of the lower Kelvin temperature, they'll put out more red to yellow spectrum. You get into your higher Kelvin temperatures, 4200 to 6400. Now they make a bulb that goes to 6400 these days, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Are great for veg because it has more of the blue spectrum, and the blue spectrum is what you need for vegging your plant. And then of course there's some bulbs that are compromised of both. We'll talk about those as well. The first thing we'll talk about though is just your standard fare bulb. This particular bulb here is your 1000-watt metal halide. This is pretty well the standard bulb of the industry for vegging. They make one with a smaller envelope these days, and we have some of those. They are your Sunmasters here. However, for vegging, a Sunmaster is a great bulb. However, for flowering, I don't recommend it. I've talked to a lot of growers who have used this particular bulb in flowering, and they have found that they lose at least a quarter pound per light, which is very substantial. But for vegging, great bulb. Great way to, they also make, it's an easy way, they also make to turn your halide into your metal halide fixture into more of a warmer HP towards an HPS. This bulb is a compromised bulb. They have one that's neutral, they have one that's a cool, a neutral, and a warm. Now they say the neutrals and the cool are the ones you should use more for vegetative growth. But people I've talked to absolutely think that the warm works best for vegetative growth, even though they'll say this is the flowering bulb, but you don't want to use this one for flowering. For flowering, there's a bunch of different bulbs that you can use. Your standard fare is your Phillips bulb here. Puts out about 115,000 lumens. This is your standard fare bulb that you're going to use for flowering. Now, they also make a high performance bulb. It's made by Hortilux. The I company, or Iwasaki, actually makes it, and it's the I brand. It's a very good bulb. This super bulb puts out about 140,000 initial lumens, and I believe it burns at about 135,000. It's a very good bulb. Talked to a lot of growers, they really like this. However, it is a lot more expensive than the regular Phillips or Sylvania bulb. Now, for flowering also, if you have a metal halide fixture and you want to change your bulb into flowering, there's a conversion bulb to go from metal halide to HPS. Once again, it's the Ultra Ace. It's made by Hortilux. Very, very good bulb. Very good way of doing that. And I'll show you what this looks like. It has the big round envelope, but inside of it is a metal is the filament for the high pressure sodium. Very good bulb, very good results with this particular bulb. One thing I know, you see me touching it, you really don't want to touch the glass. So what happens is the oils from your fingers get on it, and they bake on it, and actually weakens the structure. I'll make sure I clean these off real good when I go to put them away. Also, a little trick, if you will, sometimes bulbs are hard to screw out of the socket. Well, what you can do is take a little Q-tip and stick a little grease. Now make sure the fixture is unplugged or off when you do this. You can use a little bit of Vaseline, and they actually have a special electrical oil you can use as well if you have a problem getting the bulb out. What you're going to want to do though is make sure that fixture cools down. When it's hot, it's a lot harder to remove the bulb. Now, there is a way to burn a metal halide bulb in an HPS properly. If you stick a metal halide bulb in an HPS fixture, it will burn it, but it won't do it vice versa. You cannot stick a high-pressure sodium bulb in a metal halide fixture. It won't burn. It just won't happen. What happens is the igniter switch is on all the time when you put the metal halide bulb in there. And what happens is it shortens the life of that metal halide bulb dramatically. Maybe you'll get 6 months out of it, but you can get around that. That igniter switch, you can put a switch on there that connects or disconnects that igniter switch. In fact, some ballast manufacturers on their box, they have a switch. It says you can burn both bulbs. Well, what they've done is they've just interrupted that igniter switch with a switch that you can turn on or off, and voila, you can go ahead and you can burn both bulbs. And that's totally okay to do. 400 watt bulbs. So same thing, I'm going to show you what a 400 watt bulb looks like. I know some of you are saying, well, this is pretty standard stuff, but there's a lot of people out there for the first time that have never grown their medical marijuana. We want to make sure that they know everything that there is to know. It's your standard 400 watt bulb. It's your standard bulb. Nothing too special about it. Works great. Same thing, if you want, you can get into the Warm Deluxe, the Sunmaster bulb. Once again, I would recommend it just for vegging and not for flowering. Also, we'll talk about now about 400 watt high pressure sodium for flowering. This is your standard bulb, HPS 400 watt. That's what it looks like. And then if you want, you can get into a more advanced Deluxe makes, again, a high output, high performance 400 watt bulb. There it is. So it's got the I Deluxe right there on there. I highly recommend this bulb. A very good bulb. And again, then you've got Sunmaster makes a Super HPS Deluxe bulb. It works okay. Once again, I don't think it's the best bulb out there for flowering. And they also make a Warm Deluxe metal halide bulb that actually is more of an HPS bulb that goes into a metal halide fixture. It is a compromised bulb. That's the best way of putting them. And also, I'd like to show you what a 600 watt bulb looks like. This is a 600 watt Deluxe bulb. It's a high performance bulb. There you go. That's it. Okay. Now there's some other bulbs out there as well. There's a bulb called the Sun Agro. It's a 430 watt bulb. Very popular in Europe, not used too much here, kind of used in the States. There also is a made by Sunmaster, an 1100 watt bulb. Once again, it's great for veg. Don't recommend it that strongly for flowering. There's also a bulb out there called the Agro Sun. Now the Agro Sun is actually made by Sunmaster, but it's privately made for a company called Hydro Farm. So everything that I said about these bulbs would pertain to those Agro Sun bulbs as well. Also, there's a bulb out there, it's called the Gavetta bulb. It comes from Europe. Basically what it is, it's a 400 watt bulb like this, except what they've done is they put a mirror in here, and you don't need any kind of reflector or hood with it. You just put the bulb in a horizontal position and everything goes out. Now they only make them in 400 and 600 watt. However, remember earlier in the thing I talked about 6400 Kelvin temperature? That's the Gavetta bulb for growing, their halide bulb. It puts out 6400 Kelvin. It's a great bulb for vegging. It has a built-in reflector in there. They also make a flowering bulb for flowering that is 400 and 600 watt as well. The name is Gavetta. You can get that from Rambridge in Rambridge Wholesale in Calgary. They're the North American distributors for that particular bulb. It's a good bulb. Some people like it. Like I said, once again, you do